Hey, howdy, hey, and welcome to another episode of Disney Assembled. I'm Troy,
And I'm Mimi.
and we are your happy little father daughter podcast, here to create joy and share our love for all things Disney.
Disney Assembled is sponsored by our patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to join them, check out patreon.com/DisneyAssembled.
Yeah, we'd appreciate your consideration for doing that. Membership is as little as $2 a month. I mean, almost anybody can afford that. $2 a month, you get access to all the exclusive patron-only content over there, and yeah, all that good stuff. So yeah, check it out. We'd appreciate that. All right, here we are recording remotely again for the second
Yes.
time. I thought last week went pretty well for our first attempt at sort of
Yeah, it
not
was
being
okay.
together.
Yeah, there's a weird lag between when I say stuff and then when I think you hear it. And so there's like that situation right there. But there's also I just like didn't edit the beginning of our show last week because I had forgotten that on the recording it's not just like go, hey, howdy, hey. It's like go, and then it's okay, 3, 2, 1, hey, howdy, hey. Like I didn't edit the beginning. So if you heard that, really sorry.
I put a little disclaimer in at the first part of the show just to explain to people that it was our first time doing it. And I think what happens is because we're using StreamYard to do this, which for the most part has worked pretty good considering using a free
Mhm.
plan. But when we spoke before recording, there didn't seem to be any lag. But right
Mhm.
when we start recording, there seems to be a delay between what I say and when you hear it because your response when we're doing the recording piece is a little delayed. So I think when the recording software kicks in, it messes with the
Yeah.
signal a little bit, maybe. But
No,
but
yeah.
like right
The
now, I
re
don't think there's much of a delay because I can hear you almost right away.
See, I say something and then I feel like you pause for a little bit and then you respond.
Um, yeah,
Like
I
just
think
then. Like it
part of
just
it is
happened
just
just
getting used. I think part of it is just getting used to the fact that we're not next to each other, right? So I'm
Yeah.
in another place and you're in a different place, and so it's just kind of we're used to seeing each other literally a foot away from each other, and now we're you know a few
Yeah.
hours away. No
But yeah,
big.
so
So yeah, good
it's
stuff.
not
What's going
horrible
on?
though. I am feeling kind of not like overwhelmed, but like there's a lot of reading. It's definitely college is definitely a lot easier than high school. Anything they tell you about that won't fly in college, yes, it will. It's fine. Like I walk into class the minute class starts because I'm of the opinion that I don't need to sit in class for 5 minutes before the professor gets there because they're not even there yet. If the professor's not walking in until 1, I'm not walking in until 12:58. So I get to class 2 minutes before it starts every single time, and I love it. Um, I think part of why I'm, like, drowning in work or, like, drowning in reading is because I like to be ahead, and so I'm, like, reading ahead of everything, and I'm, like, trying to stay on top of being ahead because if I'm not ahead, then I'm behind, and, it's good, though, like, I'm doing really well, I've got a lot of Kappa Delta stuff going on, so just there's
Yeah.
a bunch of new member things happening with that, um, all the time, and it will be happening all the time until I'm initiated in October. Um, I have a horrible sunburn from football.
Mm.
Horrible. Like
Oh yeah,
I
it
wore a
was hot.
strapless dress, and so I'm like all like red, like all up here. I didn't bring any
Mm.
sunscreen to college. Um, so there's
Yeah,
that. But I've been doing
cool.
pretty good. I'm chilling. I had somebody come visit over Labor Day weekend, and it cost me $14 to get them into the dining hall. 14 dining dollars. I could have taken them to Chick-fil-A on in the Union for cheaper than that.
Wow.
Like $14? That's literally insane. But yeah,
Well,
I'm good.
there you go.
How are
That's the way
you?
it is. Good. I'm fine. Yeah, I am just doing work and getting ready to go to the Disney Institute next week. We talked about that a little bit last week on our episode.
Yes, we do.
So I'll be leaving soon for that exciting experience, and then I'll get back. The weekend of the 14th. I'll be back September 14th, and then we're going to try to record sort of an instant reaction to the Disney Institute experience on the 15th. So
Yes.
Yeah, if we can arrange that, that'd be great. So
Awesome.
that's what we have the people who are listening. That's something to look forward to. But that's next week. This week we have a different topic, right? Do you want
Yes,
me to
we
explain
do.
the topic, or do you want to talk about it?
I can do it.
All right, go
Okay,
for it.
so we have been so Disney Assembled has kind of undergone, like, a little change. Not like a change, really, I think it's more of, like, an extra addition. We
We've
have started
evolved,
uploading Right. We have started uploading articles to the website. DisneyAssembled.com is now a blog. They've been mostly by Papa because I didn't know he wanted me to write as well, and so I feel really bad about that. Um, but just Papa's gonna talk a little bit more about that later. But one of the most recent articles that came out is an article talking about like what if, like, how can we bring Marvel to the US parks more, obviously with the whole, like, Sony issue, and so I think we're just gonna this week not go into the article, but just kind of, like, talk about the same topic, like, how we wanna see Marvel, brought over maybe into Orlando a little bit or even, like, other ways to incorporate Marvel into, like, the United States parks because it's really hard to do that from Sony.
right?
But I also am of the opinion that you are west of the Mississippi if you go around the Earth. I technically think Florida's west because you just got to go the long way to get there. You're still west because you went west and you never stopped going west, and then all of a sudden you land in Orlando. But I don't
And
think
eventually,
Sony
you
and
hit
Marvel.
the prime meridian, and then you're no longer
No, wrong,
west, right?
wrong.
It just doesn't exist in your world.
Yeah,
There
no.
is no
Sony
west or
and Marvel
east. It's
don't feel the
just
same way I do. But
right.
if you just keep
It's all
going,
good.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
we're
So
gonna
we
kind of go through
did.
that
We've
and then
yeah.
the joke, the
Yep.
trivia
We'll have the
question.
dad
So
joke. We'll
let's
have
go.
our trivia question. We actually had someone get trivia question from last week, correct? So we'll give our little claps to the smartest people we know. But yeah, we have redone the website a little bit. I mean, it looks similarly. I mean, some of the images and icons and pieces there I've cleaned up and made more consistent, branded it a little bit better. But yeah, so it was really hard continuing to just upload the podcast episodes as posts. And so, matter of fact,
Mhm.
we got really behind on that because it was a time consuming process. And the truth is, it's not any, technically, it's not any less time consuming than writing a blog piece, but it's
The blog's probably a
it's
little bit
more
more fun.
enjoyable. Right.
Yeah.
Writing the blog piece is more enjoyable than just copying and pasting some code into, an HTML reader. So,
Mhm.
yes, we've changed DisneySimple.com. It's still a great place for all your great Disney content. But now there's even more Disney content because not only can you find the podcast, because there's links to where you can subscribe, but now there's blog posts. So it's mostly us talking about the news or things that are of interest to us, sort of supplement the podcast, right? So supplement the podcast with some blog posts. I think it'll be a nice, well-rounded addition to what we're trying to do to create more joy. And as a matter of fact, today, well, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to spoil the episode too much, right? Because I do want
Mhm.
to talk about that. But we do have a trivia question that was answered last week. So do you want to go through last week's trivia question and give the answer? And then we'll congratulate last week's winner of the trivia contest?
Yeah, absolutely. So, last week's trivia question was, what role does actress Ashley Tisdale play in the High School Musical trilogy? So, like, what character is Ashley Tisdale in the High School Musical movies? And the answer is Sharpay Evans. And the answer, I believe, was answered correctly by our friend Andrew on
Andrew,
Instagram. So,
there you go. Good job.
smart little claps for the smartest person we know.
Fantastic among the smartest people we know. We will have another trivia question at the end of this episode, right?
Yes, we will.
You do have it, right?
It's also high
Okay.
yeah, I do. It's also High School Musical related, so,
We're on a
if
High
you
School
like
Musical thing.
we are, so if you like early 2000s DCOMs, stick around.
Yeah, good stuff.
Disney
Maybe
Channel
you
original
can get
movie,
claps next week
DCOMs.
too.
I
All
could
right.
get a I could get little claps for DCOMs, I know so much about them. I grew
Well,
up
maybe
watching
you
them.
should answer next week's question. Well, you already have the
No, but
answer. We
I
can't
have the
really cheat
answer.
here. Okay. Right. All right. So it's time to move on a little bit. We do have the main topic of the week, but we also have this week's Disney Dad joke of the week. So, Mimi, all the way in college, Are you really
3
ready
hours away.
for this
I am
week's
so ready.
Disney Dad Joke of the Week? All
Oh,
right,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, and Disney fans of all types, it is time for this week's Disney Dad Joke of the Week. Mimi, you remember Cinderella's stepsisters? What were their names? There was
Drizella and Anastasia.
Anastasia and Drizella, right? Well, when they realized they weren't going anywhere to become royals in Cinderella's world, they decided to try to go to a different universe, different storyline,
Hmm.
right? They did. So they went to, where did they go? They went to Cinderella. They already went to Cinderella. I'm totally
They're from
flubbing this.
Cinderella.
They left Cinderella to go find another royal to try to become, right? So they went
Mhm.
to um, Belle, right? Another princess. But in order
Yeah.
to become a princess in Belle's world, they had to fit in Belle's shoes, right? So they
Mhm.
started trying on Belle's shoes, and um, Drizella looks at the stepmom and says, "You know, it's too tight. It's too tight." And at which point, the stepmom looked at her and said, "Well, try it with the tongue out." And so she goes, "It's no good. It's still too tight." Get it?
Yeah, she says it with her tongue
Because
out.
because
That's funny.
because shoes have tongues,
Mhm.
but try it with the tongue out,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's still too tight. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. That's
I love it.
the setup was bad, but I thought the landing was pretty good. So that's this week's Disney Dad Joke of the Week. If you have a dad joke of the Disney variety that you believe is show quality worthy, you know
Which
what to
is
do.
literally
Email
anything.
us. That's right.
The
It
bar
just
is
has to be
very
Disney
low.
related. It has to
Right.
be Disney related. It has to be family friendly, and it has to be something we haven't said before.
Yeah,
DisneyAssembled at
the bar is
gmail.com
very
is the
low. It's,
email.
like, kind of down here, so send us an
Exactly.
email, disneyassembled@gmail.com, or a message on
Right.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all at Disney Assembled.
Even
I have it tagged
threads.
in my Instagram
Even
bio if you can't find it.
There you go. And maybe we'll
Okay.
put this episode up on YouTube. We didn't put the last one up on YouTube, but if you're watching it on YouTube, all the instructions are right there on the screen
Wait,
for you.
wait, there it is. Yeah,
Right. They're right there. All right.
yeah.
We have a
Okay,
website, disneyassemble.com.
we
We
do.
reference it all the time.
Yeah, it's also tagged
And
in my Instagram
recently
bio.
we have, right, and we've been doing some new stuff there with some blog posts. And so I actually published a blog post today because it's the beginning of September with sort of a digest of all of August. So to give people a sense of what we're, if you haven't visited the website and read any of the articles, first of
Mhm.
all, what are you doing with your life? You should be there.
Right.
But for those people who haven't, I put a blog post out today. It's sort of a recap, a digest of the activity in August, right? So some of the things we talked about in August or that we wrote about in August, goes all the way back to sort of the what we know about the Beyond Big Thunder. So we wrote a post about what do we know, what do we don't know, because we were making a lot of assumptions about the villain's land and the car's land, and so there was an article DisneySimple.com where you can find out what do we really know about Beyond Big Thunder. Big Thunder, is it
Thunder.
Thunder? And what do we don't know? Like, so because a lot of things you hear out there is kind of speculation. It's not really
Yeah.
fact, right? So we put that out there. We also, I wrote a lot about Magic Kingdom in August, and it wasn't by design; it just happened.
Mhm.
There was
Well,
another
maybe it's 'cause you're
post,
going there very soon.
maybe, right? We also speculated where if a Tiana's Palace restaurant came to Disney World, where in the Magic Kingdom it might fit. So we talked about a bunch of stuff there.
Yeah. If you
Where
wanna
do you
know how
think
we
it should
feel about
go?
those things, I think it should go I've been saying this. I think it should take up I think Pecos Bill is like that L shape. It's, like, decently big.
Right.
I think part of that L shape should go away and become the, like, Pirates Tavern thing that they're doing.
Hmm.
Plus, there's,
Hmm.
like, that weird, like, empty show building, like, directly across
Right.
from Pirates, like, that can all become, like, the Pirates thing. And then I
Right.
think, like, the last, like, remaining strip of what is Pecos Bill should become Tiana's because I think it's, like, close
Mhm.
enough to the attraction, but it's also like decently like far away so that the crowds don't mix. But I think the big like
Right.
veranda, like entrance, the gorgeous like New Orleans architecture should be on that corner, like where the L like
Right.
becomes an L. And then I think Pecos
Right.
Bill should move into the or the Diamond Horseshoe. Um, and they
Mm.
close the Diamond Horseshoe. But I also am anti closing anything in Liberty Square because I'm fearful of the life Liberty Square, and I love Liberty Square.
It was funny
So
you should say that. I talked about where I thought Tiana's Palace should probably go in the post. So go ahead and read that. But it also, inspired a post. You just referenced it. Is this the beginning of the end of Liberty Square? And so I wrote a blog piece about that, about the Liberty Square and some of the changes that are coming and whether or not there's an actual future there. We also talked a little bit about where to go in the rain. I think we actually did a podcast episode a
we
while
done an
back.
episode about that. Yeah.
Yeah, about the best places to be at Disney World, at the Magic Kingdom, if it's raining. Like we talked about
Mhm.
that. And then I did a blog post about, because I was inspired by the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party coming up. What are some of the not so scary or kind of scary, I should say, the kind of sort of scary things like ride attractions at Disney World? And so,
Mhm.
depending on who you are, some people who don't like spinning, some people don't like heights, some people don't like speed. So, there's a post there. So, that's kind of what we did in August. So, if you want to check out DisneySymbol.com, check out all of those articles, even the digest article that has links to all of those pieces in the digest article that I just published today. So, we
Go
think you'll
check
enjoy
it
it. It's
out.
mostly opinion pieces, but based on news that's come out. So we think, I think you're going to like that stuff. Yeah. So, but there was an article that I wrote recently, and it's here in September, so it's not in the article. And this is sort of the one that's prompted this discussion today that Mimi referenced earlier, and that is
Mhm.
the restrictions on using Marvel property at Disney parks. So Mimi, I know you looked it up a little bit before the show. Do you want to share kind of what you found and just in the basic way, how would you describe what the restrictions are?
Yeah, so the restrictions, they're a little bit confusing. So the dividing line between, like the the dividing line between what Disney can use and what they can't use is the Mississippi River. Um, So if they are west of Mississippi, so like the California parks, they are free to use whatever they want. But if they are
Mm.
on the east of the Mississippi in the Orlando parks, they are restricted to using what is not featured in Universal. So this goes beyond just having an attraction. So like Universal, let's say, has the Hulk attraction. So Disney can't use the Hulk in their park in Orlando because Universal has the Hulk attraction. However, if Universal decides that they want to paint a picture, like let's say there's no Iron Man attraction, but they want to paint Iron Man on the side of one of their buildings, since they have now like depicted Iron Man as a part of their park, Orlando can't, or I'm sorry, Disney can't use it either. So it's really super convoluted. Moral of the story is the Avengers, Spider Man, and the X Men can't be used in the Disney World parks in Orlando. So this leaves like kind of like the side characters, which I'm okay with. So like think like um, potentially Vision, think Scarlet Witch, think these like new age characters, the Eternals, think Kate Bishop, think Yelena Beleva, think just like the Thunderbolts in general, actually. Think She Hulk. So these characters that we kind of a little while ago, we did a Marvel episode and we talked about why we thought Marvel was doing all these like weird side character moments with um, like all these like random like characters. And I ultimately think that it's because they're trying to find a way to put Marvel in Orlando, and this is the only way they can do that. So they have to like step out into the comic realm of like random characters, but they can also use like characters like the Guardians, and the Guardians do have an attraction um,
Right.
in Orlando, and they can use Doctor Strange. I think those are the two
Mm. I think so too.
main characters that they can put in Orlando. So yeah, moral of the story, that was
Right.
kind of a long like an exposition. Avengers are a no, Spider Man is a no, X Men is a no on the East.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't have any
Good
other
good
thoughts.
explanation, and there's
Why
plenty of you can do and anyone who wants to know more about these restrictions and the details around it, because it is confusing, can just do a search online for it, and there's all kinds of articles and explanations around this. But Mimi captured, the spirit and the gist of what we're talking about. But so I wrote a blog post for the website where I was thinking about how Disney might want to bring more Marvel to US parks. Now, we already know that in California, they're going to two new rides, the the Avengers ride with King Thanos, and then the Stark flight trainer, or whatever it is, or
the
flight
simulator?
trainer or something like that.
Mhm.
So the Avengers campus on the West Coast will be expanding by like almost double the size to put these two
Mhm.
rides in, which is going to be fantastic. And then, of course, Disneyland Paris has an Avengers campus area. It's also very popular. But again, those are areas that are allowed to do that. And of course, we've not been to California Adventure for Avengers Campus. We've been to California Adventure, but we haven't been there for Avengers Campus. And the walk around characters and the interactions is fantastic. It's one of the things that people comment on all the time, where you're walking around and there's all kinds of character
There's
interactions
just
on the
heroes
ground.
everywhere, yeah.
Right. So I was thinking, what can Disney do besides just dumping more Marvel into California? And I was thinking the other day, because Disney assembled headquarters is in Texas, right? We've talked a little bit about that. Um,
Okay.
Specifically, we are in, we are, we are specifically in the Houston area of Texas, Disney assembled headquarters, right? You are
Well,
not
I'm in the
in
Austin
college in
area.
Houston.
Yeah.
You're in the Austin area,
Disney
but
assembled, local central office is in
right.
Austin, and headquarters are in
It-
Houston.
Wait, you're the central office now? We moved the headquarters
No, the
to
headquarters
Austin.
is different than the central office.
You're a satellite office, right? The satellite office. We have a
Yeah.
satellite office in Austin. But I was thinking about something about Texas. And I know people have opinions about Texas. We're not going to get political on this show, but Universal is building a park in the Frisco, Texas area, which is up near it's north of you, up closer to
No, yeah. It's,
up to
closer to
Dallas,
Dallas.
Arlington area.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's called the Universal Kids Resort. And it's a
Mhm.
small park geared only towards younger kids. And it's going to have some resort hotels and pools and stuff, but it's not intended to be this giant vacation mecca like Universal Studios parks are or Disney World is. It's a more
Mhm.
niche experience, probably catering to a lot of locals or people, coming in and out of that area on their way
No, yeah,
to and from stuff.
it's from what I see, it's supposed to, mimic the, Sesame Street theme park and, the Peppa Pig theme park that exists, just,
Right.
be a bit
Right.
big. It's gonna be, SeaWorld sized, I think is, the vibe that I'm
Maybe like a
getting.
Legoland type size
Yeah, yeah,
place
that's actually
or
probably
something
a
like that.
better way of putting it. It's,
Right.
Legoland sized, yeah.
So this idea that Universal building a park in Texas really prompted my thinking. Texas is huge. There's plenty of space in Texas. Texas is also just west of the Mississippi River. And Texas is also maybe not geographically in the center of the country, but if you split the country in half, the mainland of the United States, Texas is kind of near the dividing line. If you use the Mississippi River as sort of a dividing line, Texas is really just west of that.
No, yeah,
And
because
so
it's,
I started
14 hours to Orlando and then, 12 to California, so
right. If we drove to
if those are
California
your
and
2
drove to
ends of the
Orlando, it's not that
country,
big difference.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty central for at least for, the South, I wouldn't say, central central, but, central South.
Correct.
Yeah.
So in my post, I didn't get into a ton of detail, but I mentioned a few things. And I think maybe I'd like to talk to you about this to see what your thoughts are and maybe, you know, expand a little bit on what I wrote for the blog because I think there are numerous possibilities and benefits to Disney considering building a Marvel only sort of themed land. And I think I even wrote in the article, if they wanted to build it a little bit bigger, have it half Marvel, half Star Wars, right? If they wanted to do more Star Wars. But I'm going to focus more just on the Marvel stuff today because you can put Star Wars at any of the parks. There's no restrictions there. So, why the Houston area? Okay. And there's a couple of things. Number one, and you know this, Houston has two pretty significant airports. There is no
Right.
lack of air travel in and out of Houston.
No, yeah, Hobby
There
and Busch
is,
are enormous. I think that's part of why Universal picked Frisco, because Dallas is a huge airport, like,
it
mecca.
is.
Like, it's a huge travel hub, even
And
just for, like,
Hobby
layovers and stuff.
and Hobby Airport is a hub for Southwest Airlines. And I think Bush Intercontinental Airport is a hub for United Airlines.
Mhm.
So two of the
United and
big
Delta both
giant
fly out of,
carriers.
Busch.
Right. Right. So no lack of access to airport access if you're flying in,
Mhm.
right? The other thing is, and hear me out, right? Houston is also a big international gateway, and international guests who want to visit the park could fly directly to Houston, right? I mean, Bush
Yeah.
Intercontinental is an intercontinental airport. Southwest does a little bit of international, but not a whole lot. But
No,
Houston
if
is
you're
an
flying
easy
international,
airport.
Busch is the way to go.
So Houston's an easy airport to get to if you're flying from Central or South America in particular. You can
Mhm.
get to Houston relatively easy. Just like going to Orlando is easy from Central and
Right.
South America. Houston is simple.
Yeah.
There's that. Now here's the part, and I wrote about this in the article, and I want to hear your reaction to this. If you go to Disney World, one of the things people do at Disney World is they book a Disney cruise. And they spend a few days at Disney World and they get on their cruise and then they come back and they fly home, or they go on their cruise and they come back and they spend a few days and they go to the parks and they go home.
Mhm.
Galveston is less than an hour's drive from Houston.
Right.
And last I checked, there is a Disney cruise line vessel that from time to time uses Galveston as its port of what its port, right? That it leaves
Mhm.
from. Now, is it the most enchanting port in the world? No.
No.
It is a port with a Disney Cruise Line vessel here. And
Right.
I can see a scenario similar and on a smaller scale to Disney World, people coming to Houston, visiting the Avengers Park,
Mhm.
going on a cruise, coming back, flying. I mean, everything they need to capture a small audience because they're not going to compete with Disney World and they're not trying to really compete with Disneyland, but it's sort of on a small scale, long weekend guest, a 3-day weekend guest, a 4-day weekend guest, or something to do if you're going on a cruise out of Galveston. You can take a day and go, and you can
Mhm.
even build the park. Probably there's enough land available on the Galveston side of Houston on the way there to build a park in that direction. So I am not seeing a whole lot of downside. Now, I don't know anything about the business world and the taxes and the business friendly and all this other stuff and the politics.
Mhm.
I don't leaving all that out. But just purely on logistical matters, it's west of the Mississippi. So you can use any of the characters.
Right.
Universal building a park. It would be great for Disney to say, okay, we'll build a park too. Right? We'll compete with you. You think there's a market there? We're going to take some of your market away from you. It's a city, it's a huge city with plenty of transportation, air transportation in and out. Now, the public transportation, not so good, but the airlines are great. And
Yeah.
with Galveston and the cruise line, I'm not seeing a huge downside at all. I think this is a really promising idea. I don't work for
Okay.
Disney. I'm happy to
So,
sell my idea.
here's I am seeing the downsides. So, I grew up in Houston, obviously, like, I'm from there. I think I just wanna, like, break it down, like, geographically, there is no space for a park, I think, in Houston. I don't think there's space at all. You have to go 2
Well, not
hours
in
out of Houston
Houston,
to
but
get a
just
space.
outside of Houston.
But I also think if you go south of Houston, you're in flood country, and I think they don't want to put a park where hurricanes are going to constantly hit it. I it's I
Have you
mean,
heard of Orlando?
Orlando's not getting slammed the same way Houston is because it's on the edge of the Gulf. It's not in the center. And so I feel like there's that, like, just like flood center, right? Like things are
Fair enough.
destroyed outside Galveston in Galveston literally all the time. Like at least once a year, Galveston gets completely ran through by a hurricane, and we all have to hear about it for months on end. So that's like the geography of it. I think unlike Orlando, the infrastructure in Houston, okay, Houston is an enormous city because millions of people live there. Orlando is an enormous city because it is the tourist capital of our country. It is constantly transient. It is not full of people who live there. It's full of people who come and go from there. And I don't think that Houston could handle millions of people coming in and out of it and just staying and squatting for 4 days at a time. Like, we can barely hold the people that we have as it is. I mean, like, our highways are literally constantly under construction for expansion, and I think that if you up the tourist market, that makes it even worse because people don't travel to Houston for fun. There's nothing to do there. It's
There's
like
plenty to
work
do in
people.
Houston. What are you
No,
talking
there's
about?
nothing to do there. There's nothing to do there. I grew up there, constantly Googling things to do in Houston. Like, I just don't know if, like, the city could handle that. Now, Disney doesn't care about that. That's the city's problem, that whatever. Here's what I think from the Disney POV. They are not building a Marvel park in Texas does not combat the same market that Universal's Kids Park is combating. Universal's Kids Park is for a very specific audience. Like the idea is that adults don't go there. Like single no children adults don't go visit this park because it's for children. It's for kids. It's called the Kids Park. And building a Marvel park is not this quite the same market. I'm not against it. Like I'm seriously not. I'm just like trying to like spitball like some downsides to it maybe.
Well, truth be told, Houston used to have the Astro World, and it used to have a
That's
Six
true.
Flags park, and both of them have closed. But we're talking about a totally different
A totally different kind
animal,
of
and there is
experience.
enough money in Houston to support even
Oh,
the locals going
absolutely.
to it
Oh,
would support it.
absolutely. It would thrive just based on locals alone. But I also think from the Disney perspective, this is my last downside. The last time that they went all in on an IP like that and they made the 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend experience, they made the Star Cruiser and it sank. And they put a ton of money into it. They made it super expensive. They made it super niche and nobody went. And I fear that if they were to build the Marvel park, they might have the same problem, especially if they market at a higher price than any of the other parks that like they have going on already. I mean, Disney is already hemorrhaging money from their parks. Their prices have outpriced their market because they are hemorrhaging money, and so now they need to
I
cut
think the
back on the
parks are
right
making
there.
money.
But I
I think
think,
the
like,
parks are
as a
making money.
company, they're hemorrhaging money. But I think the if you were to build a park in Texas, I think it's a fantastic move. I think it's the right choice. I think it's time for a 3rd park in the United States, and I think it needs to be in Texas because there is literally infinite room for it. Putting it in Frisco or putting it right next to the Orlando park, that's a mistake. I don't think they should do that. I think it should be somewhere else in Texas. My personal take, I think it should be in San Marcos. I think it should be
But there's no
outside,
airport there.
but
How are
I
you gonna
think
get to it? You have to have
there's no
access to an
airport in
airport.
Anaheim. You fly to San Diego and you drive 45 minutes.
There's an airport near Anaheim. John Wayne Airport is not that far
I think
away,
it should be in San
and
Marcos, or it
LAX
should be
is.
somewhere in that triangle between San Antonio, Austin, and Houston. because then you've got, like, 2 huge, like, metropolises and then San Antonio,
Mhm.
which has, like, a decent, like, tourist population as it is. I don't know. I think a Marvel park in Texas is a fantastic idea. I think there are very few downsides to it that have anything to do with Disney. The only, like, Disney downside is that I'm worried about the single IP experience flopping again because the way it flopped with the Star Cruiser. Everything else I mentioned is, like, Houston specific, and if I wasn't from Houston, I wouldn't have even thought of those things. Like, I think, like I
Right.
think that using Galveston and using the Houston airports is a fantastic way for Disney to bring Marvel a little bit more east instead of containing it all in California.
Mhm.
But I also think at the same
Right.
time, if they move a park, like if they make it this is a very okay, let me start over. If they were to build a Marvel park in Texas to combat the Marvel issue and also the new Universal Park, that is a very blatant, "We're trying to get around your rule" situation, and I think it may or may not open the legal doors again for the conversation about Marvel and who gets to use what.
Yeah, they can't do anything about it. It's west of the Mississippi. There's nothing
I
they can
don't
do
know.
about it.
I think they have to do something with this
Mm.
Epic World coming to Universal. They have to do something, and I don't
Here's what
think
I think. I don't think
redoing
Disney's
Animal
gonna
Kingdom is
build a
enough.
park in Texas. I think this is yeah, I think
It's a
this is
pipe dream.
just pie in the sky. This isn't even blue sky. This is so far from blue sky. But
Yeah,
because I don't see Disney building a park that doesn't have a castle and doesn't
right,
tap into Disney specific IP.
right,
Marvel IP is it's technically it is Disney, but it's Marvel properties.
right.
So
It's not
I don't see them
Cinderella,
doing
it's
that,
not
especially
yeah,
well, it depends on Marvel remaining as popular as it is. And that's the thing about the
right,
Universal Park. If these kids' properties no longer attract kids the way they do maybe now, then they're kind of stuck with it. So
right,
I don't
exactly.
know. Look,
If you
Disney's not
build
going
a
to build a
Marvel
park in
park,
Texas.
you're stuck to committing to building Marvel things there,
Right.
exclusively
And
Marvel things
selfishly
there.
with right. And selfishly with Disney assembled headquarters being here, I'd love to have it here. Right.
Right. Could they put
But
Deadpool in Orlando?
no, they can't. He
But
can't
Deadpool's not
go
an
any
X-Men.
none of those characters he's part of that universe. I don't think he can go. It is what it
It's
is.
so
It stinks.
convoluted.
Right. Right. And
I
listen,
think they're gonna I think they have
I'm
to
wrong so much. I'm wrong so much that
me
I'm gonna
too,
say
bro.
that we're never gonna get the park,
Maybe you'll
and
be
maybe I'll
wrong.
be wrong. That's
I
right.
think they have to do something though. This Epic Universe world that's coming to Orlando. I keep saying Orlando and I mean Universal. That's coming to Universal plus this kids park that's coming to Universal. Universal has a lot on the like coming up for their
Disney does
parks.
too, and they're not finished.
Disney's
Disney announced all that stuff at D23, and they're not
redoing Animal
done.
Kingdom is not the same as opening another gate.
They're gonna
It
announce
will
more
not have
next
the
year.
same drive. You think so? I think we're done. I think
You
this
gotta
is our
understand
big
something.
announcements for a
Everything they
while.
announced I don't think so. I think everything they announced this year is part of their 5 to 6-year vision, but there's another 5 or 6 years, but they're just not gonna
They
talk
do
about that
seem to
right now.
operate
I
on
think
a
we're gonna hear
5-year
about that in
rotation.
2 years.
Hear about
Right, I
what?
think we're gonna hear about it in 2 years. I think we're gonna hear about the rest of what they're expanding to do
Yeah,
at the next big D23 in 2 years. That's what I think. I am
yeah.
really curious, though, to know what our listeners think about this idea. And they can read about it on our blog, and they can listen to the show, and then they can let us know what they think. So, Mimi, how can they possibly do that?
Yeah. So, you guys can let us know what you think about an third Disney park opening up potentially in Texas, being Marvel focused, or just how you can bring Marvel into the American parks. If you send us an email, disneyassembled@gmail.com, or send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all at Disney Assembled. In that message or in that email, you should also include your answer to this week's trivia question, which is what is Chad's jersey number in High School Musical? It's a multiple choice. So it the answer choices are A, 15, B, 99, C, 36, and D, 8. So, if you know Chad's jersey number in High School Musical, or if you have any thoughts about this week's episode, again, DisneyAssembled@gmail.com, or a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all that other stuff at Disney Assembled.
I'm going to repeat the choices one more time because I don't know if our listeners are going to hear. You broke up a little bit with the multiple choice. So, do you mind if I go over them one more time with everybody?
Go for it.
All right. These are your multiple choices for this week's trivia question. A, 15. B, 99. C, 36. D, 8. So, as Mimi said, if you have an answer to this week's trivia question, or if you'd like to give us your opinion, DisneyAssembled@gmail.com.
DisneyAssembled.com. But if you guys want to support the show further, link to our TeePublic, Patreon, Buy Us a Dole Whip, all that other stuff is on the website, including the blog, obviously, DisneyAssembled.com. Make sure you go check it all out. We've been working really hard on evolving the website a little bit. So go check it out.
Yes. Thank you for that. And don't forget, ratings and reviews. You're listening to this podcast somewhere, you ought to be able to do some kind of rating or review, hopefully. So do that. Give us a kind rating and a good review. We'd really appreciate it. It really helps other people find the show. And you can join with us to help create more joy in the world. If you're listening on Good Pods, a rating and a share would be great because you can share this episode through your feed on
I
Good
didn't know
Pods.
that.
And if you're not listening to us on Good Pods and you just want to help the show, like let's just say you don't want to write a review, but you want to help the show. We're an indie podcast, right? And we are pretty high up on the charts for leisure category at Good Pods for indie podcasts. But we're not like number one. We'd love to be number one at some point. So if you really, really, really want to help, download the Good Pods app. And listen, we get no money from Good Pods, right? This is just free advertising. Download the Good Pods app. Follow Disney Assembled, listen to our show, and give us a 5-star rating on Good Pods. Each episode, you can rate each episode on Good Pods, not just the show. Give us a 5-star rating on this episode and then share it on your Good Pods feed. All of that helps us tremendously. But of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, those are the places that most people listen to us from. So if you're listening to us there, thank you. We'd love for you to consider the Good Pods thing too, but ratings and reviews there are always welcome. All right, Mimi, virtual high five.
Virtual high five.
Oh, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Disney fans of all sorts, we hope this episode brought a smile to your face, some extra joy magic and joy, magic to your day, and that very important sprinkle of pixie dust to your week. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And until next time,
see you real soon.